war-torn environment on High Street, honestly. Anyways, this is the marketing blurb that I wrote for this story, which I'm tentatively calling the Goodale Park Affair. A Tony Park in an overgrown college town is the setting for a very contemporary murder mystery. One without a body, and the culprit has an invisible hand. Our protagonist is locked in motion, circling the park, stuck in an obsessive thought pattern as she tries to solve the mystery of who has murdered her identity. So that was the publishing blurb. This is part of the text. What?
There was an Instagram story gone wrong over here.
Oh, dude, nice. Hell yeah, dude. Okay. Whereas the great parks of Europe, Parc des Buttes-Chaumont, Friedrichsburg Gardens, the Tiergarten, were havens for wine and for the young, who sat in circles that inevitably intertwined and played out across their lives. As the dogs of Athens and Berlin played peacefully untethered, Columbusites were bent on depriving themselves of public pleasures, as long as it blocked the unhomed from having any pleasure at all. Therefore, Goodale Park was shorn of underbrush, with only a spotting of trees, so one couldn't fuck. Patrolled by police, so one couldn't drink or smoke. And then unrelentingly surveilled by neighbors, so even pups were chained to the community inhibition pact. Hyde Park had its free speech corner. Washington Square Park had the beatnik riot. Grant Park screamed, "The whole world is watching." But CPD had kicked out even her white college friends from benevolence when, during undergrad, they briefly put together a chapter of Food Not Bombs from the kitchen scraps to feed the poor. Goodale Park did exist for people to use, she decided, but its only use was its use value. And that was of pumping up the ever-ballooning property values of the area. The ownership did like the view and viewed the park in those terms, visual. Anything that sullied their picture was soon erased by a neighborhood commission, a police detail, a park attendant, or one of the other hundreds of other stockholders awaiting dividends from the city's most dependable asset. The sexual mores of the neighborhood changed year by year to reflect the gentrification of the area. As Havana, Exile, the Plugged Nickel, Blazers, and the Coffee Table closed, her and her friend's sexual repertoire opened. Straight sex now ran on formerly forbidden gay sex, so that getting her ass eaten was de rigueur now, and utterly absent before. Poppers, bathroom fucking, fisting, pegging, and online hookups ran through her like seasonal colors. Bourgeois straights possessed by actions that haunted the park's environs, whether or not the rough trade and hustlers still did. Her life looked more like a Maplethorpe exhibition each year, hung upon a white wall, even as the leather bars disappeared. Walking through the park at night, its lampposts giving off ovals of yellows and white greens amid a black sea with moths and June bugs flitting across like scribbles. She imaged a bellows canvas from her childhood. She'd seen it on trips to the CMA with her stepfather's family, then on the one school trip she had ever taken to the museum, even though it was a mere 10-minute bus trip away. And then again on what amounted to dates in high school. All along she thought the painting of a couple with a dog making their way through a park at night with only 3 disparate sources of light was naturally done at Goodale. Bellows was a Columbus painter after all, and what other option was there? But then, on one visit, she'd read the title, Summer Night, Riverside Drive. only to then assume that it was the same Riverside Drive that followed the Scioto through Upper Arlington, where more well-off people used nature to stabilize property values and distance themselves from the city's hordes of variegated peoples. In undergrad one day, however, she was told to write a short paper on a painting at the CMA. And remembering this childhood favorite that pictured people not unlike herself, walking in the same places, in the same manner as she had, she picked it, only to find that this Riverside Drive was in New York, where Bellows, like Thurber after him, and all of her friends after them, had absconded to, once Columbus cemented his reputation. Yet, she could not shake this long-held association. When she saw the painting, she thought of Goodale Park. When she saw Goodale Park, she thought of the painting. Perhaps Bellows, in painting Riverside Drive in New York City, was painting Goodale through it. Even in Columbus, she could not see a representation of herself. It was as disconnected as her image in the mirror. And it struck her that everything was like this. Was her stepfather's set of bankers and vacationers, her mother's consumerist Catholic working underclass, or her father's Appalachian underclass that had inexplicably relocated 200 miles north from the mines by the GI Bill, which one of those were actually her? Was she educated? On paper, but it was at a state school her peers on the coast scoffed at, pitied her for. And she had no appearance skills, no languages, nor opportunities. But did anyone? Was she a communist because she thought she would be given the chance? Or a socialist because that's what she said to her friends? Or was she a capitalist because that's what she really was? Was she bourgeois? Her life did revolve around a city park, yet she was a product of the exurbs. And how could one be bourgeois in Ohio? The more that the discourse of identity politics had left the campus and surrounded her in liberal capitalist bourgeois discourse, the more she was assured by society that her place in it turned on her identity, the less moored her identity became. And in a very, very, very real sense for her, it could only get worse. With each lap around the park, the rent increased. With each increase, friends were pushed out. With each friend lost, a part of her past disappeared. Each disappearance gave over to the ever larger lacuna where her sense of self should, with age, be solidifying. And to deal with this maelstrom, she walked, and she walked, and she walked around the park. Thanks. Alex is next.